Hello, welcome to That Mill podcast. My name's Omar. Today, we're going to be talking in a bit more detail about our defence. Obviously, 2 games into the season, we're kind of going to synopsis on what things do it, how things are going. We're not going to overreact too much, but obviously 7 goals conceded in 2 games in the league. We scored 5, positive there. But I thought we can do a bit of a deep dive into the back four and the goalkeeper situation as well, and talk about, in general, the goals we concede and the nature of that, and kind of have a different angle today. So if you're new around here, be sure to like, subscribe, and obviously comment and give you some thoughts in retaliation to what we're saying. I've got Ben with me. Hello, Ben. How are you, mate?
All good, mate. All good. So I would say I'm looking forward to going to a deep dive of us conceding goals, but not sure I am. But yeah, no, looking forward to having a chat as always, fellas.
Of course. So we've also got Stephen with us. Hello, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Everyone's already switched off now because we're going to be talking about how we're getting battered in the league. But it should be good. This should be good. This is what happens. You have to do it when you win. You have to do it when you lose.
Exactly. And we're not going to get too carried away with it, but I think it's obviously a few talking points, and we'll go into that as across various different topics. But I'll run a quick intro and we'll get straight into things. And there you have it. All right, boys. So, as I mentioned in the little intro there, Millwall conceded 7 goals in their first 2 games of the season, a 3-2 defeat at home to Watford, and a 4-3 defeat on the weekend just gone away at Bristol City. Obviously, a manic game. We discussed it at length on Sunday night on our Sunday Night Live show. But I just thought we could talk a bit about that, obviously, guys, and the fact that we're conceding and shipping goals for fun. We'll also talk at the end a bit about transfers and obviously Harris's comments in the week, and including this morning through South London Press. But yeah, I mean, in general, guys, so obviously this season, we've conceded 7 goals so far. It actually took us the last 9 games of the season to concede 7. It is a big transition, a big change. A lot's happened off the field, a lot's happened on the field, transfers galore. I mean, Stephen, if I come to you first, like 7 goals in 2 games, the manner of the goals, what's your kind of general thoughts, I guess, on that? And the nature of the goals we're conceding, obviously individual mistakes have been cited quite a lot. You've got the Watford game with Jensen's mistake and then a free kick. Kind of 2 anomaly goals. Another day we should have won that game, really, you could argue, and that didn't happen. And the same again on Saturday. There's a lot of positives in there, and obviously we're quite keen to stress that. But the goals we conceded are just very un-Millwall-like, I feel.
Well, the thing is, you look at, take Watford, for example. We all know it's keeper errors, but I only think it's really one that we can necessarily fully blame on Jensen, the corner. Yes. That no supporter, coach, manager would ever expect on the opening day of the season for that kind of goal to go in. So that's a little bit of a freak one. The free kick, all right, maybe he could have been over a little bit, but the bloke smashed it in the top corner. Do you know what I mean? It's still a good free kick. And then the third goal. Saturday was probably more concerning because it's being cut open. And the ease of which Bristol City were able to, 2 or 3 passes there and a shot on goal. And that's not really acceptable at any level of football. In the Championship, you're going to get punished. I do think that it is un-Millwall-like. I don't think the fact that we've had to play Sean Hutchinson has probably helped the situation, which I'm sure we'll get into. And I fully expect on Saturday and moving forward with Tanganga back in the squad, there to be improvements. He's not Superman, and I think we have to stress that as well. I think everyone's kind of thinking, oh, we'll be all right. He's coming back and everything will be, right in the world again. But he will improve us quite a lot compared to where we are at the moment.
No, I totally agree. I mean, Ben, just to echo that, obviously, what Stephen's saying there, well, give us your thoughts. But also, Tanganga is coming back on Saturday. He's not the saviour, but we've missed his presence in that defence. And I mentioned, obviously, we only conceded 7 in our last 9 games, and that was a big difference last season. And that defensive stability really helped us after Harris came in. He has been a big miss, hasn't he, in that back four? And it would be great to get him back in on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you look at the goals that we conceded Saturday, certainly the first one, you felt like if that was Tanganga and not Hutch, they probably wouldn't have got down the line as easy as they perhaps did. If you look at the build-up or where we were pressing in their half, we had 7 players in between the ball and our back line. They've made 2 passes and they've got in. So that's not good. But as I say, I do think Tanganga will obviously strengthen us up. Just he's more natural being taken out wide, and he has got that pace to cover the ground quicker. Obviously, look, the Hutch piece is probably a whole separate conversation, right? But just as Stephen said, I don't think we probably expected to have him in as our starting centre half, or we probably do expect to have him in for our starting centre half for the rest of the year. We know he's probably been signed as a squad player and as an off the field signing. So there's that. And I think the fourth goal was the one that really disappointed me. Now, I know you can look at it and say, we were obviously pressing the game. We got back in it. A lot of energy was used to do that. But you can't just let at any level a cross come in with no pressure on the ball. And then the defensive side of it, it's a complete lapse of concentration. So it's a catalogue of individual errors again. And as you said at the beginning, mate, it seems like that's been a recurring theme for a while, right? And it's in the individual errors that keep costing us. So yeah, very un-Millwall-like in all manner of it. The amount of goals we've conceded and the way we've conceded them.
I think individual errors, it feels like deja vu of the Joe Edwards era. He kept criticising individual errors. And I think Saville said it after the game on Saturday. I mean, obviously the personnel, like the back five itself. So like if we was to go to the last game of last season and then obviously the first two games this season, we've had unchanged teams in the league so far this season. But obviously we had Sarkic in goal, God rest his soul, right back Ryan Leonard, right centre-half Tanganga, left centre-half Jake Cooper, and on the left was Danny McNamara. Obviously this time round, that was quite a stability. That was quite stable towards the end of last season. I think Danny Mac came in after Brian's injury early doors in Harris's spell, and he kind of held down that position at left back, I felt. And Murray Wallace came in a couple of games, but the bulk end of last season was Danny Mac left back. Then this time round, we've obviously got Jensen in goal, new goalie, obviously cater for that. Obviously, new goalie needs to bed in. You got right back Leonard, who's obviously remained. Hutchinson's come back in, but Cooper's still there. And then you got Joe Bryan. I guess what I'll focus on is maybe first the left back position, guys. And we'll talk about Tanganga and Hutch in a bit. And obviously, the whole lack of pace maybe from the last two games. I feel like that's been a big part. But obviously, I think Ben and Stephen, we both all agreed that Harris would probably favour Joe Bryan, but with this argument about balance. And I know we spoke about it on Sunday in the live show, but I'll come back to you, Ben, on this one actually. Is obviously having the balance, is that a big thing? Like, how important is that, do you think? And obviously, like Harris has put that kind of, left back in, left footed. I think he preferred to the end of last season, but Danny Mac, end of last season, defensively was brilliant, and he's been all right so far this season. At Portsmouth, he's done a good job against their attacking wingers. Is there an argument to say perhaps maybe Danny Mac should get back in the side, or how do you feel about that position?
Danny Mac's probably been very unlucky because he was probably one of our better players to the back end of last year, and the way we were sort of playing in those games where it was defence first, stay in the game. You've got 13 cup finals, so it was managing a game a bit more. Yeah, he's probably been the unlucky one. Just again for me, when I talk about balance, I don't only just mean going forward. I mean they're having a left-footed fullback or wing. It just naturally is much easier to play in a unit when someone's naturally footed on that side. So yes, Danny Mac's been unlucky. The only thing I could say is that with the injuries that we've got now, and I kind of mentioned this on the live on Sunday, is would there be an argument to push Ryan Leonard back into midfield and play Danny at right back? Just whilst we are a little bit short. I think one of the key things I took away from Saturday as well is I don't think Sav can be our 46 game a season man now. Like, he needs legs around him. He needs players around him that have got the mobility and the energy. So, yeah, would there be an argument to push Leonard into there and then push Danny into right back? Yeah, I really liked what Danny did over the last 13 games of last year, and he's probably been a bit unlucky to miss out. But, as I say, I do like a left-footed left back and a right-footed right back.
Stephen, I felt like you was maybe a bit critical of Joe Bryan after Saturday's performance, because obviously about closing down, you mentioned a few times, and obviously the freedom and also time and space you kind of alluded to. Obviously, he's an attacking fullback, and we've all said that. He's not really offered too much attacking. It's only 2 games, and I hate to be critical after 2 games. We can't necessarily go down that route. But a lot of the goals you said as well have been conceded down that side, haven't they? And is that, is that maybe something to do with Bryan? I mean, when I look at Bryan myself, obviously, he's an experienced left back at this level. I don't feel like he offers that kind of composure at the left back position on the ball. But then obviously, like you mentioned, defensively, maybe a bit slow to get out to the wingers and obviously give them the time and space, and maybe present some sort of a problem for us in the goals we concede.
Do you know what? I don't. That you're right, but the bigger problem is because he naturally wants to go forward. I think it's more of a case that he's further up the field, and then when you do get caught, you are reliant on one of your centre halves having to come out. So first goal, for example, Sinclair Armstrong breaks down our left, and because Brian's on the halfway line, Hutchinson. Obviously, it was Hutch. It would normally be Cooper, but it doesn't really matter between the two of them, does it? Whoever goes out to that left hand side is going to get. They're not quick. The guy's going to go past them. So it's his instinct to go forward. I agree 100% with Ben with the whole left-footed left back, right-footed right back. I think it's important to have that balance. However, because we haven't started so well, and we know what Harris is like, trying to grind out a result, and he's going to want to get a point on, or he's going to want 3 points. But he's going to want to get something out of the game. If you don't get anything on Saturday, 3 defeats, pressure really does start to mount. I would be tempted to go Danny Mac back in and go for that sort of solid, hard to beat. We were at Southampton, that day Danny Mac played and Leonard played, and they whilst they had a lot of the ball, they didn't really do an awful lot with it. That's the kind of thing I think we might need to see. I don't want to just completely. It's not just Joe Bryan either. The goals are down the left hand side, and obviously we think that he's weak defensively. There are other frailties, but I do think that we've kind of he was signed under a different regime to play wing back where you can get away with it. We're not playing with wing backs anymore. We're playing with out and out left backs. And you're right what you said. Going forward, he hasn't offered us an awful lot, and that's not a dig or anything, because the guy that's in front of him has scored 3 goals already.
Yeah.
So we're all right going forward down that left hand side. So it seems, because Watmore's doing his job, what he needs to do. We're just conceding too many goals, and perhaps we need to look at being that old school defensive unit rather than these. And I liken Joe Bryan to maybe a little bit of a luxury player, someone who you need other players around to cover him to get the best out of him. And unfortunately, like Ben said, Sav's legs, Cooper's legs, they don't really give him that opportunity to do that.
I think we miss a balance. I think with Dave Mack at left back, if you start, Watmore's doing a job there. What was natural foot, would you say? He's a right footer, isn't he? Because you saw he's finished the other day, right? But he's not too bad with his left foot. But I thought against Portsmouth, having Esse as the left winger, you could maybe get away a bit and cheat a bit with a right-footed left back. I don't know if that's something you guys agree with, because obviously it offers that kind of natural width to the side. Do you think that's maybe, when we talk about the lineup and the setup, we're going to go on to be a bit short players here, my point, but if we had a natural left winger that was left-footed, maybe that would offer a bit more balance in that position, as opposed to having to play Brian left back in that argument. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. You've in Neil Harris's team, the wingers have to come back and defend. They have to, and that's why Esse perhaps wasn't getting game time at the back end of last year, because Harris didn't trust him to, or didn't feel like he was able to do that. This year, whilst Esse's getting a little bit more game time, I do think he's been criticised for not making runs like wingers, but he's been also probably thinking to himself, I've got to get back and help. I've got to help my fullback type thing. So maybe a left-footed winger down that side would help him. We'll come on maybe later transfers. We'd all like about 5 or 6 players, I think, and do a number of positions. But maybe there's an argument for that. But I think as a supporter, you want your forwards to be scoring goals, and you want your defenders to be keeping the ball out of the net. So I just want a defender on that left-hand side that's going to do the best defensively that he can do. Let the attackers do whatever they've got to do to get the ball in the net.
Sounds like Murray Wallace is coming back in then, mate.
Well, not quite. I think I don't think I could carry on another season. But do you know what I mean? Someone that,
I'm only messing.
It's you want Murray Wallace, but maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah.
That kind of mould.
So obviously Tango's coming back Saturday, and I think it would be key to us. Do you think maybe because we scored 5 goals, meaning we're attacking a bit more, the fullbacks have definitely bombed on a lot more at the start of this season? It has highlighted, like we mentioned on Sunday, you expose Cooper and Hutchinson as a pairing to, the pace that Sinclair Armstrong had in the wide areas. it's kind of the writings on the door there a little bit, isn't it, Ben? Like it was obvious they struggled with the pace of him getting behind them two running over there back to their own goal. It really highlighted that maybe it's the end of an era there with Cooper and Hutchinson, isn't it, a little bit? And some the pair of them have been class for 6-7 seasons now for this club, but also maybe highlights the evolution that needs to happen at Millwall, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's the key word, mate, and that simply hasn't happened, right? And that's just, we're going back into what we're talking about recruitment now. We haven't, have we? We just haven't. Mm-hmm. One thing that we do as a club, and it's something that I'm very pro and I'm very proud about, but also something that probably is a detriment to us, is the fact that we're so loyal to some players. Like, we just need to at sometimes go, thanks, great servants, move on. And that's not me being harsh. I'm not singling out Coops or Hutch, but there would have been arguments over the last few years where you could have moved Coops on. I know he ended up having a good back end to last year, but do you know what I mean? There's just at times where you think we could have moved on from certain players. I think the way football's played now is even changed from 5 years ago. A lot more. The worst teams now still want to come up and play football. You don't really see teams being hugely direct. You even look at Sinclair Armstrong. I mean, he's massive, but he's good with the ball at his feet. So you don't really come up against too many teams now that are going to smash it down Coops and Hutch's throat, and they're just going to head it back all day. It just doesn't happen. So we're going to see, unfortunately, them get isolated more and more just by the way that teams play. And as I say, I think we saw that last year with Coops. We saw it at times. We obviously then signed Tanganga. Tanganga got up to match fitness, and it helped because he was able to cover that ground. But yeah, I think, again, it just highlights the fact that we need reinforcements and we need to be more athletic across the pitch.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is something that Joe Edwards said. Just getting out of there.
Who Joe Edwards? I forgot that is anyway. But so then obviously, Stephen, like you mentioned, obviously Brian was brought in as a wing back, different system. Is there an argument to say, obviously you got Harding, Tanganga, we've been linked with the Hibs defender, haven't we, this week as well? Is Harris maybe considering changing formations? Is that maybe, it's 2 games in, but Harris is a 4-4-2 man at heart, but it's kind of a 4-2-3-1 so far this season. But do you think maybe that's something he might be considering or pondering?
Possibly. I actually think that, I know this is going to sound a bit odd, I think we may have the personnel already. Maybe we'll need another one, but I think you could go at 3 at the back, 3 centre halves, Leonard, Cooper, Tanganga. I think you could go with a 3 at the back with them 3. You'd obviously need cover because you're playing 3 centre halves, Hutchinson, Harding, or this lad from Hibs. I think we've also been linked with a guy from Burnley again. Is it Burnley?
Yeah,
Luke
McNally.
Yeah. So maybe that's a possibility if you're going to go to a 3 centre back position. I just think the whole loyalty thing, I agree with Ben. We are good to players that have been good servants to us, and there's other players that fall into that category, one of which pains me to say, but there's players that we don't ever really capitalize when we could. So for example, Jake Cooper, we could have got a decent fee for him, I think, personally, from a Rangers, maybe before he signed the deal or whatever. They offered him the long-term deal, and now you kind of feel like we have to play him. And Tanganga's been brought in to replace Hutchinson, great, but you're going to have to play Jake Cooper. There's nowhere else for us to go there. They're not going to sign a left-footed centre back to replace, in my opinion. I just, it's a shame because had Tanganga had not been suspended, we probably wouldn't be doing this show. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's true because I don't think we get beat on Saturday. I'm not saying we go and win the game. I'm not because Leonard's mistake, crosses coming into the box. He's not Superman, but I just don't think we lose the game. And maybe again, Watford, I don't think you can blame the centre halves for what happened, but who knows? You may have been a bit more comfortable on the ball because you had a ball playing centre half on the pitch. Again, supporters are going to say, we're linked with defenders, we need attackers, we need wingers, we need everything. Ben and I had a brief conversation on Twitter. I think we still need a left back and a centre back, personally. I don't know if we're going to get it. I really don't know if we're going to get it, but that's what I think. After losing Malachi as well, We need cover. We need, and not just cover, because clearly Hutchinson his legs are going. I don't think Harris fancies Harding. So if you lose a centre half again, what do you do? There's just nowhere to go. I think we're very short at the back still, and whilst people might not see it as a pressing issue, I actually think it is.
Ben, you got something to add on the formation, mate?
Yeah, just before we go into that, I just want to say as well, I don't want this to sound like it's complete overreaction and we're going Hutchinson Cooper finished, like get him out of the team, because it's not that. All I'm saying is we're just highlighting the defensive frailties or weaknesses that they do have in the modern game, and I think that's the difference. We just need to understand sometimes that it's never been Coops' game, right? To be rushing out wide and chasing down centre forwards. That's just not his game. His game is heading it, kicking it, and being a proper centre half. And as I say, unfortunately, the game has transitioned and moved on.
Sorry, Ben, just jump in there on that. The Jake Cooper and Sean Hutchinson, when we first got promoted to the Championship, teams didn't know how to play against us. They now do. Yeah. So what I'm saying is you're bang on. They didn't know, now they do. And we're still trying the same things.
It's not only us playing that way, right? It's teams, as I say, evolving now, because the teams that come up from League One, that maybe take out Rotherham as an exception, but Pompey, they'll try and play football this year. Oxford, they'll try and play football this year. So you look at all these sides now, and yeah, as I say, it's very rare that you're going to get a team being quite direct and play into the hands of Hutch and Coops. Just on the formation piece, and I know we're talking from a defensive perspective now, but say we do get another forward in, just from the players that we have got on our books, and clearly the pecking order at the minute, whether we like it or not, is Tom Bradshaw, Langstaff, in that order. If we get another one in, is that going to force a change of formation? Because I can't imagine that Macaulay Langstaff, having signed for us, is going to be happy to sit on the bench, being number 3 in a pecking order, unless Bradshaw is going to move on.
No,
what do we think about that going forward?
Yeah, no, I do think it sets up a little bit for how England set up in the summer after the first couple of games, where you had kind of Foden and Bellingham kind of behind Harry Kane, right? Like, I do think there is an element of maybe a couple of players busy around the central kind of forward. And if that's Coburn, for example, then I do think there's an element of that. And I think it would also then cater to the back a bit more. I don't want Cooper outside left centre half, because that's where Joe Edwards had him and it just didn't work. I think you're right to mention that we're not criticising. I think it's more we know these are the vulnerabilities of these players, really, and it always has been the case, especially in the last couple of years for Hutch. I think just on Hutch anyway, before we move on to the next topic, I think how much of an impact do you think his lack of pre-season maybe had a difference? Because I've always backed Hutch. I remember talking to you both on a show around the Christmas time. I think we had an injury at the back. Hutch had to come in. I had no doubts that Hutch would come in and do the business, because he's that experienced centre half, knows his way around the Championship. Maybe he's getting on a little bit now, but I do think him not having a full pre-season, I'll come to you on this, Stephen, I think probably had a big impact on him, because obviously he was away for 3-4 weeks, maybe looking for another club, didn't happen, came back to us. And I think him only playing I don't think he even played a full 90 minutes in pre-season. So that's going to have a knock-on effect, isn't it? And being thrown straight to the deep end.
Yeah, and again, just to echo what you boys said before, we're not saying sell them, get rid of them, never play them again. We back all the players as much as we can, but you do have to accept that players have their limitations, and they seemingly have more than others. That's just how it is. The bit on Hutch, I don't think it's helped really at all, the fact that he left the club and then maybe was trying to go back up north, or I don't know, find a club, and then it's kind of, I'm not saying we've just kind of gone, oh, go on then, we'll have him back, we'll do the nice thing type deal, or the mates thing that keeps getting banded around. But was he really at that point? I think he is now, he's club captain, but did he really think he was coming back? Did he think he was going to go elsewhere? That meant he was going to be behind, and it's all a bit messy. It's all a bit messy. We all know he was brought in as cover for, let's face it, Tanganga was, as soon as we got that deal over the line, we knew he was going to be the first choice. But yeah, it's not helped the pre-season, and unfortunately, as I say, we're talking about these kind of things because we've seen that our squad depth is not quite where it needs to be.
Ben, I'll tell you one player that's done quite well, albeit in League One so far, is Alex Mitchell for Charlton. I mean, we let him go. He's young, fits the profile for the players we're trying to sign. Obviously not fancied by the club and Harris, but does beg the question, isn't it? Like, we let him go, and that could come back to bite us in the arse one day. We're yet to find out, but it is an interesting one though, isn't it? Because I think he probably could have offered something, especially his first couple of games, and we don't know. That's the problem. We've not seen him play enough to give a full judgment in a Millwall shirt, but I would have liked to see him got the opportunity this time around instead, as opposed to selling him.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It will still baffle me come end of season why we did get rid of him, especially if you look at, in hindsight now, I mean, the club would have known the process of where we were at with Tanganga, whether we knew we were getting him, then what the squad would look like at the back. And again, you mentioned it, Omar, about the evolution. We have surely that a young graduate from the youth team is that natural progression. Like, I know he wanted to play and he wanted to play 90 minutes week in, week out. So I get that. We probably couldn't have offered it to him this season, but surely we could have found a way of saying to him, you're not going to get 90 minutes every week, but we've got a lot of football this year. You're going to play. You're going to play. Bide your time. You'll be a more senior pro next year. You'll have a year of the championship under your belt, albeit, as I say, not a full season. We must have been able to find a way. And you look at it now and you just go, fucking hell, we really could have done with him just at this start of the season, just because of how light we are for bodies there. So, yeah, it's a strange one, mate. I mean, look, we don't know what the player could have just come back from Lincoln and said, look, I just want to leave the club. We don't know that. It seems like that might have been the case. But, yeah, we could have done with him just from a body's perspective at the minute, mate.
Stephen, anything to add on Alex Mitchell?
Yeah, it's good luck to him. If he didn't want to play for the...
Oh, we've lost Stephen there. Oh,
he's so annoyed about Alex Mitchell.
One take wonders. Hello.
No idea what happened there.
Alex Mitchell.
I lost my train of thought now.
I don't think he wanted to leave.
No, he was he was loaned out to 4 or 5 different clubs.
Yeah.
So he probably thought, you know what? I don't want to keep doing this thing. I want to find a regular home. Is it here? No. Okay, let's explore options. Let's explore options elsewhere. I agree. Maybe the evolution would have been perhaps a Mitchell Tanganga partnership at the back. Who knows? You don't know. Maybe they won't make the same mistake with is it Okoloy? The young centre half. So maybe they won't make the same mistake again when he's ready to break into the first team. But as I said in the chat earlier, we could have done with bodies, but I'd take Ben signing for us at the moment just to fill the squad at the moment. So from a bodies point of view, it's a shame he's not there.
Sutton United under-18s player back in the day, Ben. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, get the boots out. After my performance at the Den this year, no, probably not.
I want to wrap up this defensive piece anyway. In the most, obviously the most unfortunate circumstances for the club, we've got a new goalkeeper in Jensen. He's had a bit of a shaky start, hasn't he? I mean, Saturday, like we spoke about on Sunday, not necessarily his fault in the goals. I personally feel like he wasn't confident going into that game. Obviously, last Saturday must have rocked him, and understandable. I want him to roll his sleeves up and kind of grab the opportunity and keep going. I hope he, I think we'll persevere with him, and I hope he comes out the other end for it. But having that goalkeeper change, Ben, it's going to have a big impact, isn't it, on the balance of the side and just the whole kind of understanding amongst the players, really. And I do feel like them goals on Saturday, for me anyway, whilst not his fault directly, I do think it's a culmination of all the circumstances. You're missing your best centre half in Tanganga. You haven't, got the established goalie that's been here for a season or two to be bedded in. He's still learning his way a little bit. And did he sign before even preseason started? I think he came in just before Murcia. So this element of that, obviously not a lot of time with the players. Maybe these sort of elements we do need to take into account. And hopefully, as the season goes on, they will start to be eradicated. Yeah,
and look, we saw it in Matty last year, right? He didn't have the strongest of starts for us. And there was question marks looming over him for a while. So it's a position that you would always like to be settled, in my opinion. It's one that you just, if you've got a keeper that's been there 5-6 years, it just helps. It can't be of any benefit just having a new keeper, change of personnel, just a different voice behind you as a centre half or a fullback. So look, it's going to take him a while to settle in. One thing I will say is his interview when he first joined, he seemed like he really just oozed confidence and that he was a confidence guy. I hope we haven't knocked that out of him in 2 games. I really do. But going back to Saturday, I can't blame him for any of the goals personally. We won't know this because you're obviously not playing, but the only thing you could say from an organisation perspective, are you loud? Are you confident? Are you directing traffic in front of you? But that's just a goalkeeper's job. We don't know if he has or hasn't done that. Is there an argument to give Roberts a go? Again, I know you went to Pompey, Omar. We said he looked good, but he didn't have a great deal to do, right?
No,
would that completely kill Jensen's confidence if we took him out as well? So there's a lot of things to think about.
I think that's the balance up, isn't it? I kind of mentioned a point on Sunday night that, look, this is the championship. Games come thick and fast. You get opportunities to put it right, but also the games can easily slide away from you. And we could easily be sitting on 6 points, like you said earlier, Stephen. We might not be doing this show if, we won both games and in different worlds. We scored 5 goals. We've got 0 points in 2 games. It's mental. It's not, like I keep saying, it isn't Millwall. Like, I know Harry says that, and probably people get frustrated at that, but if you score 5 goals in 2 games at the start of the season and you're Millwall, you're thinking we must be at least on 4 points here, isn't it? And the goalkeeper in front isn't, it was not ideal. And we're kind of having to deal with a situation that no one wanted to be in, obviously with Sarkic not being here anymore. And that has an impact everywhere in the squad, not only in the defence. And I think that does have a knock-on effect. And we've got to back the goalie that we've bought for money. And as Ben said, he came across confident in the interviews, but I don't know. For me so far, I haven't seen him barking orders. I haven't seen him dictating. I haven't seen him doing that. But it's only 2 games. I don't want to get too carried away with that.
It's really an odd thing to say, and I think it happened to Sarkic. Sarkic saved a penalty at Birmingham, I think, fairly early doors, but he'd obviously he'd had the ropey start, saved the penalty, and I know obviously there was other moments, but that sort of seemed to give him a little bit of belief, like. Jensen needs a save. I know it sounds stupid, but he needs a big save to earn us a point, to win us a game, a penalty save, something to kickstart. He had the worst possible start, home debut, massive crowd, tribute to the guy whose shirt you've unfortunately had to take over, and concedes in possibly the worst way for a goalkeeper to concede. So everything's kind of been against him. I wouldn't lose faith with him just yet, but he needs a spark. He needs a save. And what I would say, just on what you touched on, that we've scored 5 goals in the first 2 games. We've also hit the post 3 times from chances that we probably should have scored. We're sat here thinking we could have had 8 goals in 2 games. We were talking about how many goals we were going to score in our prediction video. If you haven't watched that, go back and watch it. Little plug there. But we were talking about struggling to score goals. We creating chances seemingly for fun in both of the 2 games. I know that people say that don't start that. You'll have everyone on your back. But no, it's just it does swing in roundabouts. That it is a team effort, and everyone needs to be putting together. And we've seen when we got it right at one end and not so much at the back end. But I think with the keeper position, give him time. And I'm sure a save or something will come from nowhere that will give him that confidence, and the fans will then get behind him.
Do you remember David Ford's first game for Millwall? Anyone? I've just all come back to me. Anyone got it? It's a trivia one. I put it to the comments as well. But does anyone remember it?
No, go on,
boys.
No, I don't.
Steven? We lost 4-3 away at Oldham. Remember?
Oh, Trezor Candle. Yeah.
We lost 4-3. Next game, he didn't keep a clean sheet, but he saved a penalty in the 90th minute against Huddersfield at home. We won 2-1. And it's come back to me. So, there you go. David Ford, how long was he here for? 7, 8, 9 years.
Legend.
1 appearance off Brian Keane. And, probably in modern era, our best goalkeeper. So, look, it was a shaky start for him, but he had the character, came back from it and improved. So, there you go. There's a little nugget for you. I think that is a good point, actually, to mention, Steve, because, it is, you need that moment. And Sarkic, you're right. He had that against Birmingham, saved a penalty. Even Nisbet scored that day, Stephen. Great free kick. So.
the thing with that, moving on to the forwards, and I know obviously
we're
Ben
going
joked
to
about
now anyway, so we'll move on from the defence now. So feel free, mate.
Joked about Langstaff, but Steve Morrison was exactly the same. When he talks about it, Morrison was really poor when he joined the club. He had 2 goals in 20 games, and everyone was getting on his back. He had an absolute stormer against the MK Dons at home. He scored 2 cracking goals, ended up with 20 goals. And we ended up going to get promoted. Langstaff hasn't got his opportunity, which again I know is a big talking point. I probably could do a whole show on it. But again, he's someone. Maybe he needs. if he gets his moment to say, I'm here, I'm your main man, that's maybe something that he's looking for. Esse's had it to a certain extent. He's got a couple of goals. Maybe we need to see a moment for Jensen, a moment for Langstaff, and then those two can maybe settle a little bit in the team.
My only argument to that, mate, is Langstaff can't get his moment if he's sat on the bench.
That's the thing. I understand. I do get that, and that's
not me torpedoing your argument there.
No, not at all.
Right?
It's true. And when I say that, I mean, you know, you're in the lap of the gods with Harris bringing him on or starting him to give him that opportunity. But when he does get it in the league, I'm not the Carabao Cup. I know he started, but that's different. It's a different thing altogether. Once he gets that moment or that opportunity, I just hope he can take a moment and kind of say to Harris, look, I'm your man. You bought me, play me, and I'll score goals for you. And I think it applies to Jensen too.
Do you remember the question I asked in that prediction season thing as well? Who's going to play more games this season, Roberts or?
Yeah, I know.
I was only going to answer Roberts, just putting that one out there. I mean, look, I want you to succeed, but if I ask you the question again,
no, you don't. You want to point.
If I ask you the question again, though, would you change your mind?
Not yet.
Not yet. Then not yet. There you go.
No.
We all want to get to succeed, obviously, but yeah, for the sake of the points, well, I might be tempted. Anyway, we'll do 5-10 minutes anyway to wrap up on this week. Obviously, more reports and more articles out. Neil Harris has been interviewed this morning by Rich Cowley. We're close to signing Daniel Kelly, who obviously done a pre-agreement to join in January. He's actually done his medical today, supposedly, and he's going to sign for us. So, new body in the door. But Harris obviously was asked in a bit more detail and elaborated on his comments from the weekend. He went on to say, I've been very honest, open and passionate with my thought processes with needing players in the building. Everyone understands my frustration towards it. The fans can certainly see how much effort, commitment and dedication the players gave for 78 minutes at Bristol City, but they can see the difference between the two squads. Our rival brings on quality and game changers, and we struggle to see the game out because we can't make one or two subs. I'm now not even thinking about one month might be in today or one might be in tomorrow. We will add players to the group before next Friday's deadline. We have to. At the moment, we'll work with a core group of 14 outfield players. So, Ben, what's your first instincts when you read that or hear that from Harris? He's continuing, he's doubling down, isn't he? He's making it very clear. I need some players and get them quick, please.
Yeah, and then he's quite right in doing so. He will feel like he hasn't been backed. I know there's a bit of an argument, certainly in our WhatsApp group at the minute, about whether he knows or doesn't know and if he's playing a bit of a game. I don't see what the benefit of him is by coming out and being so vocal and dying on that sword if he is involved and if he knows we are getting players in. He might be playing. He might be being a very, very, very clever person. I can't see it. I just don't. Yeah, he's not getting back to the minute. I echo everything he says. We need bodies in. We're also looking at the players that we have got coming back. Listen, that Tango's going to be fantastic for us, but he's quite fragile. We saw that last year, and we saw the amount of games that he's actually played in the last however many years. It hasn't been many. So, look, we need bodies in. Harris is dying on that sword. It's a very dangerous game for him to be playing if he knows that we are going to get people in. Just on the Dan Kelly piece as well, he does go on to saying that's he's not a player for now. He's a player for coming months and years. So whilst it's another body, I'm not expecting to see him certainly in the first 11. He might be in the first team squad just because we need him. But yeah, look, as I've said a few times there, we just need players in the door, mate. And to caveat that, we need players that are going to add quality, not just depth.
Yeah, 100%. I do agree. I think I don't. It's obviously we're seeing starting now, and I'm seeing the risk of what we're losing out on. A potential 6 points, Stephen. You could argue as well, like we've said earlier in the show. But I don't mind this approach if we get the bodies, if we get the players we want. But it's a risky game, and obviously Harris is, like I said, doubling down. What's your thoughts on that? But also the strategy from Millwall, where it's clearly we've identified players we want. We're not moving from these targets, but push has got to come to shove sooner rather than later, right?
We've been lucky with the majority. So we wanted Tanganga, we got him. We wanted Langstaff, we got him. We wanted Longman, and we didn't. And that's where you're right, it becomes a risky game because there's no guarantee. Just because you want a player And Longman gave an interview, didn't he, back end of last year, saying, "I'd love to come back, I'd love to sign." Well, the whole went, well, no, you got to pay. It doesn't just happen. So I believe, and my opinion is, I don't know how the exact run-ins of the football club and what Gallen and Harris's respective roles with each other are, and what conversations are had and whatnot. But I envision that Millwall have targets. At this point, they have targets, and they are going after 3-4 players, and they're the ones that they want. But if you don't get them, and to echo what Ben said, we can't just accept anybody in this squad, even though we need bodies. We had Ollie Burke, didn't we? But come back in. That was the most panic of panic signings ever.
Where is he
just
now?
to get anyone.
Where is he?
I don't know. I don't even want to know. That was a panic signing because we didn't have anywhere else to go, and that was the only option that we had. So it is a problem if we get, for argument's sake, Aziz, Coburn, and one of the two defenders that we've been linked with in the last couple of days. They're clearly the ones that the links are not going away. They're the ones that they want. If we get them, fantastic, great. Take your hands off. They've got their priority targets, and then you fill in with maybe a couple of loans from the Premier League to your wingers and to boost your squad a little bit. If we get to the end of this week and they're not in the door, the signings that come in are going to be a second, third, fourth choices, and then we've got a big problem. And then Harris is well within his right, in my opinion, to turn around and go, right, what's going on? What's happened here, sort of thing. I don't agree with all the noise that Harris is coming out and saying. I do see both sides of it, but he's brought in to coach a team of players and have us ready for the Championship. But he's been promised to have a squad in place. He doesn't have that. So I think he's well within his rights to be a little bit angry with what's going on behind the scenes personally.
No, and I do agree. I think I share the same opinion. Risky game. Like Ben, I know we're joking about it, but we play Football Manager, right? So you've got the targets and you want to go for them. But how long do you give it before you're thinking? And also these other clubs, there is an argument to say, they know we want Aziz, they know we want Coburn, they know our situation, they can see it. It does put us at a bit of a disadvantage, but also then that's when you've got to have your chairman, your owner, to go, right, we're getting them. And it feels like he's committed to getting these players. It feels like that's what we're doing. And we've waited for them to sign players and move things along. And that's kind of where we're at. We can't force the market. We have to wait for the market to react to it. But it is obviously then causing this whole kind of conundrum. And I mean, obviously Stephen mentioned it there as well, but do you think there's a chance that Harris could walk if he doesn't get players at the end of this window? What do you think on that one?
Yeah, I do. Just from what he said certainly his interview Saturday and obviously the one today with Rich. Yeah, I do. I think there's a distinct possibility that if he doesn't have the players in, he's going to say, look, my position here is just it's something that I can't achieve the objectives with this squad. So, yeah, I do think that is a possibility. That's just my opinion. Got nothing to really base that on apart from obviously his interviews. But, yeah, I do think that is a possibility. In terms of the players that we've targeted, I think there needs to be a realisation from us as well that unfortunately we're not at the top of the food chain. Mm-hmm. We probably have to wait for all these other clubs to be doing deals as well. The only, again, this is just a name that we've heard bandied about, right, is Aziz from Reading. That's probably the only player where we are at the top of the food chain because Reading are in, we all know what position they're in. So, yeah, there does need to become a point though, is if things aren't moving, how long do we give it? I know he said he doesn't expect anyone in before Saturday, but then we've only got a week left. Are we doing 3, 4, 5 deals next week? Absolutely no chance. This is never going to happen. We never do that. If we do that, they are going to be panics and we could see Ollie Burke back.
When's the deadline? Next Friday? Or is it the end? Is it after Saturday? Do we know?
Well, the next Saturday is the 31st.
Yeah, it's the Saturday.
31st. So I would imagine it'd be after the games. But not much will happen on the Saturdays, will there? With games being played, like you might get the odd. Yeah, everything could be done before then. I agree with Ben. If we don't get
Harris's Friday, sorry guys, by the way, 30th Friday. 30th. Yeah.
If we don't get the 3 players, I personally think it should be 5. But if we don't get that, I don't see Harris being here after the international break. And I hate to say that. I love the guy. Omar, we're very similar in our opinion.
Yeah.
I love Neil Harris, Ben as well. I love the guy. He's a legend, childhood hero, the lot. But he's not going to put up with not having the squad that maybe he was promised. Again, look, we don't know what's been promised. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. This video could go out maybe tomorrow or Thursday, whenever it was going to be, and we could have signed a couple of players, and Harris is probably a lot happier. You don't know what's going on, but it is getting very, very nervy. And I look on Twitter, you guys, and I'm sure the listeners do this as well. Refresh any piece of news. Nothing. It's just nothing all the time, and it is concerning. But look, let's not be all doom and gloom to finish it. We got our 2 best players to come back into this team, in my opinion, in terms of Tanganga and Fleming. Faces will be in the door. We will sign players. Who they are, Ben's getting that contract, drafted up and sent back to the club as we speak.
Just sent the dog to sign over.
But there will be players in the door, and we will be better than what we have been with the players that are due to come back in. Whether it's enough will remain to be seen, but there will be some movement. There will be. It's just what movement it is.
Cool. It's all fractious, isn't it? I mean, the argument in Walker is, it's there, isn't it? I suppose, but I just feel like he won't get a better job in the Championship. He probably would go back to League One, and I think that's hopefully. He's a man of. He keeps saying, "I'm going to see a 12-month contract left." So I think that's why, for that reason, I don't know. He's been very critical, so it could go one way or the other, I suppose. But
just on that as well, mate. From what he said, not even really recently, but I don't think he's going to be here this time next year.
No, I don't think so either. I think the club want to move on from him. I mean, listen, if we get 3 players in and we end up winning 15 games on the bounce, not going to happen. But if we did, then it could.
Do you think this is why we are seeing him being less involved in transfers then? Because if he's not going to be here in 12 months, we need to have a strategy, which is concerning because I don't think we have got a strategy. So, but yeah, do you think that's why we're seeing him less involved in the transfers?
I do, and I also think it's why he's being really aggressive in his interviews, because he knows he's only realistically here for a season. So he's saying, "Look, sort it out." He's got nothing to lose, has he? Really, Harris? If he does go, he goes. If he stays because we get the players, he's going to do the best of his ability. But he's got that kind of in his mind. I'm here for a season. Maybe that's why he's being so aggressive in his comments, because he doesn't have anything to lose really in terms of a long-term contract. I don't know. That's just
I did keep saying last season, if he keeps up, he's got a free hit this year. And look, so far we've got 5 goals and you can see the 7. It's very on Harris night, and it is him trying to evolve and maybe show what he's about as well to other potential suitors in the future, if that's the way it goes, I suppose. So time will tell. I think I'm going to call it here anyway, guys. So that's the end of the show. If you've enjoyed it, if you've liked what you've seen and you want to say anything back on YouTube, be sure to comment. The boys will happily read the comments and probably get back at you if there's anything you want to say. What do you think? Is Harris likely to leave if we don't sign some players? Are we overreacting? We're not overreacting. We're just talking about the situation, I feel like. But yeah, regardless, it's where we're at now. We'll still be there. We will be there, boys, right? So Hull City away Saturday, 7:27 train. Oh, I can't wait. So there we go. Ben, thanks for joining me, mate.
Pleasure, mate. As I say, just to echo again what you said there, mate, it's not we're just talking about the situation, right, and identifying where weaknesses potentially are in the bodies that we've currently got. Hopefully, yeah, we will have a few in come next Friday. But I'm laughing as I say that because at the minute I'm concerned.
The DocuSign's been returned.
I've got a feeling
about to send
back.
Friday Night Live could be interesting next Friday if everyone's around for that one. It could be
special.
A tasty show, I think, if we don't have any players in. Stephen, thank you for joining me, mate. And hopefully we'll get some players in, as you say, right?
Yeah, and just again to slightly echo what Ben said, we do this show. We talk about Millwall regularly on a podcast every week because we love the club. We just want them to succeed, and unfortunately, we can all see the issues at the moment. And we're just being realistic. We're not talking about the end of the season, what's going to happen, do we want Harris to go, etc. It's not about that. It's just what could happen, and we just want a little bit better for the team, and we want Harris to have the players that he wants and us to move up the table. That's all we want. So it's trying not to be too negative. And I know we're bipolar Millwall and all that, but stick with us. We're sticking with Jensen. We're sticking with dare I say it, Joe Bryan and Jake Cooper and Sav and all those players. So stick with us, and as Omar said, like and subscribe, and hopefully we'll be bringing a little bit more positivity come the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's a great way to end the show. So thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back again soon. Thanks for tuning in.